Well, all right. Welcome to the October 24th edition of Real Men. Oh, man, I'm looking at my book and started with the wrong. This is Uncle Bobby's Country Corner, where real men don't play. Now, with that being said, it is hot as fish grease in Los Angeles. It feels more like July than it is October, damn near November, boy. And one of the things that we're going to talk about today is the environmental holocaust that we need to take a really close look at. And my guest today will elaborate on that over the course of the show. And it's always been about models of possibility and best practices here at Uncle Bobby's Country Corner. So welcome once again, Daude Sherrills and his brother Billy Early. And we're going to get into it in a minute here. I'm awaiting a call from way down south, Mobile, Alabama, by the way. And in the meantime, oh yeah, man, the home of a lot of incredible athletes, including Willie Mays and Willie McCovey, and a lot of great athletes, a lot of good people. But as I wait on that phone call, the reason I had you guys on the show today, we just left a meeting over in Watts, California today about a major project in your neighborhood. You know, you've spoken on the show many times before about your roots in Watts, California, that goes back 80 years, you know. Yes. And I guess we can start with the fact that your uncle was a World War II veteran, if I'm correct about that.
Yeah, my Uncle George Lewis fought in World War II. And at the time, prior to the housing laws in Los Angeles, it was discriminative towards African Americans. Many African Americans was migrated here based upon our family being in the military, and so my Uncle George fought in World War II, and that was my grandmother's brother, and because of that, we was able to have a place in Watts based upon that scenario alone.
So let's fast forward to 2017. So much is going on in terms of development around the country, and particularly here in Southern California. And I made that a recurring storyline here at Uncle Bobby's Country Corner simply because there's such an impact on our everyday life, man, as it relates to how we have to deal with the changing of the environment. There's a phrase someone coined that's near and dear to me by the name of Wendell Stimley, the president of the National Association of Minority Contracts. He said, urban renewal means Negro replacement. Yeah. And wow. There's some phenomenons going on right now that reflects that statement's truthfulness. Yes. You know, because you made me aware the other day of the fact that a few years ago, after they tore down Nicholson Gardens.
Jordan Downs.
Oh, they tore down Jordan Downs, that's right. And matter of fact, when they worked on that project, they displaced the people to the Inland Empire, which is for people not in the Southern California community, in the desert. Basically, and there was 2 or 3 different communities. There was Lancaster, Palmdale,
Antelope Valley. What was that? San Bernardino County,
right,
and the Moreno Valley areas, and also a little bit further away out to Hemet. So a lot of people have been kind of displaced in these
all the way to Hemet,
way in the Mojave. In Barstow, I mean,
where it get 115 on a regular basis.
Yes, we have a lot of migration. Which is, I guess, what you would consider another migration of African Americans, but not by voluntarily, but by force and by what you call this whole urban renewal development project that's coming into Watts in South LA and Pacoima. It's going to go on and on and on.
Wow. Hey, Portis, is the line busy? Okay. 1 second, please. I'm trying to get my next guest. Okay, here we go. So you were saying that they got all these folks out of the projects and sent them into Death Valley. That's what they call it, don't they?
Yes.
Death Valley. And as a result of that, a new population was brought in to replace the residents that had been there historically. And what does that population look like as opposed to the original group of people who stayed in the Watts area?
Well, it's like I said, it's, as you look at now, they call it the browning of the inner city, and not a lot of people. When you say certain things to our ethnic groups when it comes to housing and jobs, most people will get offended by just identifying part of the problem as it relates to African Americans being gentrified from these certain urban and inner city communities. And it's been a historical thing. It's been not like you say, it ain't been just over years. It's just been a 20-year revolving door of displacing and evicting African Americans from these inner city communities because of these future plans that some of these city planners have been planning and to remove us and stuff like that.
So that's bad enough already that there's been that kind of displacement. But you pulled my coat a few days ago to something that's far more troubling, and that is the environmental issues that have prevailed now for several generations and the impact that's had on the physical well-being of the community. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, this whole what you call urban renewal is another thing for it. And like you said, it's more sinister than just displacing residents. But when you displace residents who've been exposed to heavy toxic poison that was in the soil, that was in the water, that was inside the housing situation. Now we're talking about a cover-up. We talk about genocide. We talk about something that's directly affecting the health of many African Americans who traditionally was the residents in these certain communities for over decades, without someone even just notifying them. Just a simple notification, hey, you may have been exposed to toxic waste, go get tested. And because of this type of situation that's being covered up and it's not being exposed, that these people need to go get themselves checked out. We have in these situations where people are being displaced, are dying, are filled with cancer, and have been affected. Their health has been affected in multiple stages. And a lot of times these people don't even know the true cause of it. They think it is something that they contacted through food or it's disease. And a lot of times this stuff has all related to people being exposed to high toxics, from their environment in which they was living in.
Well, we're going to return to this conversation shortly, but we have on the line a brother who I grew up with in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, by the name of Luther. We call him Big Sook Allen. His nephew presently plays for the Miami Dolphins. He played for the Oakland Raiders last year, and he played several years for the Philadelphia Eagles. Big Luther?
Hey, what's up, Bobby? What's up, homeboy?
All right, so, y'all can pick up that accent off.
That's right. We got it. I got it.
Hey, man, I'm sitting in here with some brothers, man, from Watts, California, and I've told them how we rolled in Tennessee, because we didn't have no Crips and blood. We had Sneeds, McCullers, and Gucci's,
Right. We were country bumpers.
But we dealt with a lot of the same challenges in terms of what society, presented to us as a way of living, right? Big Luther, and the photo that's on the screen right there was taken a couple of years ago in what is infamously known as Reed Alley. Okay. In that very corridor right there, you had every kind of piece of action you could imagine, all right? And I'm telling you, they had that corner, really cracking, right? You remember the song, I Shot the Sheriff?
Yeah.
Me and Big Luther knew a guy named Commodore who not only shot the sheriff, he shot the deputy, too. Wow. He was moonshining, man. This is a long
There it is.
But that alley produced some great athletes, and Big Luther was one of them. In 1971, he played on what is arguably the greatest high school football team in the history of the state of Tennessee. Because how many of y'all got college scholarships off that team, Big Luther?
It was about 15 of them, guys went to UT, they went to Mississippi State.
Vanderbilt, yeah.
Oklahoma State.
That's where he went, Oklahoma State. Yeah.
Good team. You're a real decent team.
Yeah. Yes. And we all grew up in a tight little community, and I guess out of all of us throughout the course of the 35 years that Jerry Scoopmouth Anderson, who's in my book here, that's what we call him, Scoopmouth, right? He played at the University of Oklahoma with Billy Sims, and they won the national championship in 1975. Yes. And Barry Switzer, in his best-selling book, who Big Luther has met on other occasions, he said the hardest hitting defensive back he ever coached, high school, college, or pro football, with Jerry Anderson. Mm-hmm. And Big Luther and them, I'm trying to tell you, man, they kept their hospital busy, man, on Friday nights. You know.
I think, Father, we were just kind of a little bit before our time, man. We didn't know how good we were, man. You know?
I'm telling you, man. I'm telling you. Yeah. Now, y'all see he got some size on him still, right? Yeah. But when he was in high school. Shoulders. No, when he was in high school, he was 6'5", 265 pounds, man. And his running buddy. Right. He wore number 75, and his running buddy in that defensive line was a brother named Terry Sneed, who reminded me of Duke of Rock Johnson. Right. You know, wide as he is tall, you know. And he wore number 66. We call him 6 bits and 66, man. And boy, them niggas would eat your ass up. See, I lived on the street adjacent to Reed Alley, right? And I had a little old basketball goal back there, and I had more regulations than he did, and Duke man them did. So my grandmama and them told them they had to go on home, right? And they didn't want to stop playing, right? Yeah. So they tore my goal down, right? They came through the cut that next day. My grandmama had that hot water waiting on them.
Hey, Bobby, you didn't tell your homeboys though that you had the good goal. We had a bicycle rim for our goal.
We was all poor, but they thought I was middle class. I had a damn bicycle. Lord have mercy, man. Yes, sir. But it's really been fascinating, man, as I've grown to be an elder now, to be able to still have a footprint in that town, and then be able to meet cats like y'all. And like the only thing that was different was them bandanas, man. Because I'm telling you, man, these cats were just as rough, man. You know where I'm from.
Well, that's a lot of us, like I say, migrated here from the South. You know what I'm saying, based upon them chasing us up out of there. And so a lot of us, especially who migrated to Watts. Watts didn't start off as just gangs. It started off in big families. There's a family in the projects that everybody was scared of because they had too many brothers and too many sisters. They was called the Pygmies.
The Pygmies?
Yeah.
That's their real name?
Oh, and they short like the Pygmies. And,
get out of here.
And they the one who set the standard inside the housing projects. Is the reason why the gangs started formalizing as gangs against the Pygmies.
That sound like the Sneed family, don't it, Big Sir? Oh, my Lord.
You got it. Was talking, Bobby. How far is Watts from Carson? I've never been to out to California where y'all at. Carson, California. Is that close to Watts?
Oh yeah, Watts is in the central of it's the center part of L.A. So it's probably like about 10 to 15 minutes. It's right up Wilmington Avenue, because we're on 100. I think we're off of 103rd, and you go towards Carson. It's in the about the 215th block. And so it's about like you have to cross over Compton, and after Compton you get to Carson. And so it's like 15 minutes.
Let me ask you this: they still play good basketball at Compton Dominguez High School? I've heard about that. When I was in Florida, they used to have this City of Palms basketball tournament every winter, and they would bring the best high schools out of this nation to Fort Myers, Florida. And I seen the Compton Dominguez play.
Was that back when Davis was playing for him? And
well, they got a big tall kid. I think he went to Kentucky, Bobby. I don't know for sure, but he was real good.
Chandler came out of there.
Yeah, Chandler.
Tyson Chandler.
We know you're talking about Tyson Chandler. Yeah.
Okay. Richard Sherman came out of there too.
I'm not a basketball person, but I really enjoyed that, man. teams from Little Rock Central and Allen County, Kentucky, and Bristol, Tennessee, and New York. They had kids from everywhere down there.
See,
City of Palms tournament. They still have it in Fort Myers during the Christmas.
Oh, see, that's where Nate grew up at. His nephew,
right,
in Fort Myers. But see, he said he didn't know too much about basketball, but he played football on a basketball court.
Those Jim Brown style.
They were hollering about who was up next. We'll fix that. We can fix that. They actually were picking people up, dropping them, playing football on a hardwood gym floor. That was insane now.
Oh, yeah. That's where I'm from, bro.
Yeah, well, you got next. We'll see if you got next.
I guess that's where the great Jim Brown learned his basketball skills there, because he played just like that himself.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Bobby, that was crazy. Bobby, I remember that, Bobby.
I know you have a lot to do with it. You know what I mean?
I played out there with them.
Yeah.
They were trying to take me out, too. Yeah, because I was big, Bobby. They didn't have no mercy on me.
No, man. You know, guys be out there playing. Even in football, it was cats that would play with pocket knives. You know? And if it got a little too hot out there, man, somebody got a couple good licks in, you know, you try to reach and tackle somebody, you may run into a hook bill out there, man. It was pretty rough, man. Yes. Pretty rough. But it molded men. And the reason I asked you to come on the show, Big Luther, because from time to time, man, I want to lift up, you know, the memories of these cats that inspired us, that came before us, and it kind of gave us a sense of what our responsibility is, because the two brothers that sitting in here with me now, they standing tall in a part of the city that is finally, you know, been recognized as somewhere people might can make some money again, and they bringing all kind of development into the southern corridor, not South LA, but Watts, you know, which is world renowned. Okay. For a number of things. Number one was the 65 riots, you know, and the Watt stacks, you know, performance when the South met the West, you know, because they brought all of the Memphis artists out here.
Sanford and Son, you know, it's a famous Central Avenue. Watts has this place in history, especially for African Americans, because that was when we migrated from the South. That was the only place where we was allowed to settle at, and there was Central Avenue, and they kept us content on that one side for so long until they until they passed the housing laws, which allowed African Americans to migrate to the different parts of the city of Los Angeles. So it's a historical place for us.
Now, to give you some idea of what we was dealing with in the 70s, right? Because Big Luther's a year older than I am, and we were the first group of kids that went to school with white kids, right? And they had some tough little hillbilly boys now. All right, and so when you put them hillbillies with them brothers from the hood and the brothers that live way out in the country, that's the best football they ever seen in the state of Tennessee, right? And but it spoiled people like Luther, all right, because all the black schools wanted him, all right, and he had been used to like eating well with these white folk when they traveled on the road, and you know they were swelling up on the road, right? And so he went down to Tennessee State. You know who Too Tall Jones is,
that
right?
was my man, Cowboys.
John Merritt had designs on having Too Tall on one side and Big Luther on the other, right? But Big Luther would tell him, Luther, you wasn't about to share no lunch meat with no nigga.
And plus, Bobby, I read a story about, you know, Eddie Robinson down in Grambling, you know, like when they travel. Him and his wife made a bunch of bologna sandwiches because when they stop at restaurants and stuff, they wouldn't let them black kids get off and eat.
Right.
So, you know, like on a traveling trip to the South, you know, like they go Bread Review or Texas Southern or whoever, you know, they had to travel. They would let them stop and get gas and stuff, but they wouldn't let them eat. So they did a whole lot of bologna sandwiches. His wife made a whole lot of bologna sandwiches. And I love bologna, Bobby. I need to go get a little something else to eat. You know, because back then, you know, the SEC wasn't really recruiting black kids back when I got out of high school.
No. But
I'm on stuff.
I'm
gonna tell y'all a little story right quick. I was born in 53, so I may have been 11 or 12, and we were still segregated in the South. So, we'd go to work and haul hay to make money to buy shoes and stuff to go back to school. So I made a little money, and I went up to get me some shoes to go back to school. This is a real story now. This is in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, back in maybe 64. I may have been 11. But anyway, I went in there to buy, this is a true story. I went in there to buy me a pair of shoes. So Mr. Charlie, that's what we call the white man. Mr. Charlie said, what you want? I said, I'm looking for some shoes, sir. He said, what size you wear? I said, well, I wear any size, but 12 will fit. And he said, okay. So he went out and bought a pair of 12, and I couldn't try them on. I had to take them or leave them. You're not going to put your feet in these shoes as you buy them. And this is a real story. And I said, okay, I'll take these. How much is it? And he said, $12.50. So I gave him a 20. I put this on everything, man. Mr. Charlie took my change and threw it in the floor. Wow. All I did was swoop it up and got the gig, and I didn't say, sir, why did you do that? I got on up out of there because I knew the rules of the game.
Right.
But that's a true story, though. I don't tell many people that.
Yes, really, boy. That's where we from. And the reason I introduce people to folks from where I'm from is people take it different way. They say, well, I wouldn't have put up with that. You didn't. Right. You wouldn't have knew no other way.
Exactly.
It ain't like you seen black people standing up and doing all that till damn near for television. You see what I mean? So where you from. Now, enough is enough, though. Yeah. Enough is enough. Because once they integrated, Lord have mercy, boy. I'm telling you, we broke up plenty of them folks, man, by trying to talk crazy to them.
That's when I started whooping them on the football field. Because, see, what I did on the football field, if I'd have whooped them on the street like that, I would have got me a domestic assault charge. I used to get down, bro. I thought we were friends. We were, but the whistle we in between these white lines, they ain't blowing the whistle. But we friends then, but I got to, earn my keep.
That's right. That's right, Big Luther.
I thought we were friends. Luther, we are friends.
Once we get on the other side of these lines.
On the other side of these lines, they take that whistle off, we friends.
See, the reason he was picking cotton and hauling hay and all that at 11, he was already looked like he was 20. You see what I mean?
Right.
Now, that same truck that he got on, they look at me and say, "Nah, man, we can tell right now you ain't gonna give us a good day."
I'm gonna tell y'all a story about me picking cotton. We would get $3 for 100 pounds of cotton. That's a lot of cotton, man.
That's a lot of cotton.
I never could pick no more than about 98 cents worth all day. I'm serious. I never could get $1, man. I'm serious. But 98 cents back then was a long
That's a lot
way,
of money.
Yeah. But it's like I said, man, that experience, I mean, that's all I knew, growing up,
Yes.
But once things started changing, I kind of adapted real, because I was kind of a conformist, I didn't kind of rebel or nothing, but I tried to go along to get along, but sometimes that wouldn't work. And like one day I was walking home from school, this white boy, he wanted me to start at youth basketball with him, and I just didn't think it was good. So he begged me, man. He had a nice fiberglass backboard, blacktop driveway, and he went in, and he come back out, and his mama came out. What's this here? No, you can't. You got to go play with your own kind. You can't play here. So I dropped my head at the dig, and so I really didn't want to stop over there no way. But he begged this little white boy, because we went by his house for me to go home. Yeah. And he wanted to shoot some basketball with him. Yeah, and man, that was the course he shot down. I was about to get. At the same time, the man told me to change in the floor. I'm about to tell him to go. I'm piling up on me, man.
Hey,
I stayed strong, though.
Yes.
So, Big Sook, like I said, he's in Mobile, Alabama now, right? This Saturday, they're going to meet up there on the square.
Barry told me, said they're going to, the Ku Klux Klan going to be on the square, man.
In my hometown.
Yes.
Yeah. Big Mark. It'll be all on the news out here. Okay. It'll be all on the news, because the guy that killed this white woman and wounded about 7 white people about 2 months ago at this Church of Christ. He lives in Murfreesboro.
Right, I heard about
And
that.
the Klan
Bobby.
found out about it and said,
Uh-huh.
well, we need to go down there and see what's going on. We know we got some good old boys left down there in Murfreesboro.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You think you living in 1964, you go down there and see all them the white men on them horses and stuff down there on the square, you know.
I tell you what, Bobby,
Yes, sir.
they don't took them sheets off now. They don't let them sheets go. They want you to know who they is now, don't they?
That's good news right there. And I hope they get some close-up shots. You know what I mean? I really do. Because I done told my people stay on away from up there because we ain't got no bail money. You know what I mean? For that kind of foolishness, man.
Right,
For real.
right,
you know.
right.
Let them go ahead and exercise their First Amendment rights. And what we want to do, and I'm going to spend the second half of this show talking about how we want to start using the model of success out here in the West.
Right.
On the West Coast, and that is, you know, sometimes you just got to roll your sleeves up and ball your fists up too, you know, because they ain't the only one got rights.
No, they ain't.
We got some too. So, Big Luce, I got to go to break, man. I'm gonna have you back on my show. We're gonna do a Burrow show here in a minute. I'm gonna get all the read out there on the air. Okay.
Okay.
Appreciate you, big fella.
All right, big
Okay.
dude.
All right.
All right.
Nice talking to y'all.
All right. We're gonna take a short pause. Then I'm gonna regain my official voice. How y'all doing, et cetera, et cetera. We'll be right back in a couple of minutes.
Yes.
We're black. And what we want to do now, man, in the second segment of the show is I'm going to turn to Billy and I'm going back to you. Billy, the other day we was at a meeting together and you shared with me something that just really opened up my eyes. And again, it's one thing for us to have this information, and the other thing is what we're going to do with it.
Yes.
I'm not doing this show for posterity's sake. It's time to really take this information and figure out what's the next move, who we're going to hold accountable, and how do we balance, this situation between the bullet and the ballot.
Right,
okay?
right.
And there's some other elements in between that. But, we got to leave everything on the table right now. So we were sitting around talking about a number of things, and I didn't even really know what you did exactly. And then you told me you was in the nursing profession, So kind of qualify that a little bit, and then lay on my audience what you laid on me.
Okay, yeah. Well, actually, I'm a physician assistant, and I graduated from one of the first physician assistant schools out here in California, Charles Drew University. And I graduated in 1999. And I was practicing for like 16, 17 years.
Okay, just because I don't know, and I'm about halfway up the list. Okay. Some that dumber than me and some that smarter than me. Okay. What exactly does a physician assistant do as opposed to a nurse?
Okay. The difference between a physician assistant and a nurse, you have LVN, you have MA, medical assistant, you have an LVN, and then you have a registered nurse. Those are nurses. Mm-hmm. A physician assistant is a mid-level practitioner that works directly under the doctor and that can work with a protocol, using protocols without the help of a doctor. So like CVS, these pharmacies have minute clinics now, and they utilize physician assistants and nurse practitioners. So the doctor is not there. Most of the patients will come to the clinic or go to the store, CVS, the retail store, and they'll say, well, where is is there a doctor here? They say, no, we don't need a doctor here because we work like off of protocol. So we do like little surgeries. We treat patients, for asthma, for STDs. We do gynecological exams. We can help deliver babies. So we do all that stuff right there. So they're like a cheap doctor in a way where you could get services that doctors usually do, but for half the price.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So those are PAs and nurse practitioners. So we're considered mid-level practitioners.
Okay.
And so I graduated in 1999 from Charles Drew University. It's in Watts. It's in Los Angeles, but it's close on the border of Watts. It's the first, university that had the first PA program that trained PAs. It started in 1972. Mm-hmm. And so I graduated from there in 1999. And so I practiced, for like 16, 17 years, had my own clinic, a physician assistant corporation in Corona, California. And I had that corporation for like 7 years, or almost 6, 7 years. And I became the focus of racial stuff there at the clinic. So we had like the medical board, and this is what this is all about, color people of color being under attack, becoming under, deliberately under attack, because of their color. So this has to do with what we were talking about right there, Kanda. I'm actually an advisor, the national advisor to Black Doctors Matter, and I'm also on the national advisory board of the American Pain Institute, and I'm an advocate for the World Federal Sickle Cell Federation. So the World Sickle Cell Federation. And so with these groups here, we're focusing on doctors because right now there's a issue where a lot of doctors are getting falsely accused for pain pills. See, legal pain pills, when somebody comes to a clinic or they go to the hospital and they may need a treatment for something. Let's say you broke your leg in 3 or 4 places and you're in severe pain and you can't take it and you receive a treatment for that pain. So the problem is that's a legal treatment right there. But these people, these so-called medical boards, physician assistant boards, and the DEAs and all these people right here, they're attacking these doctors and mid-levels like PAs and nurse practitioners, saying that they are drug dealers now. And these are legal medications that's legally prescribed. But the problem is there's a lot of illegal stuff going on, and they accuse the doctors of that.
Well, the look on my face says it all, because a painful rip in my upper hip. That was a song that Curtis made by Dylan that dope. All right, at the heroin. And
right.
As much as I just would believe, because if it was otherwise, I'd have heard about you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just selling stuff to any and everybody, right?
Right.
I'd have heard about it. That's just how these streets is. Okay?
Right.
But it's hard for me to sit here and not still be concerned about the fact that it has gotten so bad.
It's bad.
All right, this opioid addiction. All right,
right.
White folks get ready to turn on white folks about the fact that they got a Jones when they went in there with a broke leg and they came out there with a $500 a day addiction to opioid drugs. So that's another different conversation that we're not going to have today because we ain't got enough time.
Okay.
But the implications of that has been peculiar to black physicians and black nurses. I'd like for you to speak on that more so.
Okay, sure. Okay. So what I'm doing right now also is that I'm advocating for black nurses organization called CANDA. And so this is a coalition of African American nurses and doctors in action. And this is a group of black individuals, and actually involves a lot of individuals, nurses, professional RN nurses, and doctors all over this country. And so what's happening to these groups of people is they're being illegally targeted to not work, to be able to, they're being illegally targeted to get them out of the working environment in these hospitals, using something they call DNR. Usually, when you hear the word, when a medical term DNR, that means do not resuscitate. Mm-hmm. So they put this on the bed of people here. DNR, don't resuscitate. I mean, this guy is gone. Mm-hmm. So now they've given this to these black people and people of color in large numbers, and they call it do not return or do not rehire. But they use this DNR to describe that there. Okay. So it's a bad thing when they put this on somebody. So what they do is the nurses go, they try to, they go to work, and most of these hospitals employ like Filipinos, and they migrate here. There's laws for for them to come into the country because they say there's a shortage of nurses. But there's actually not a shortage, and most authorities would say there's no shortage. The thing is that a lot of the nurses that's supposed to be, that has a license, that's in good standing, they can't get a job because they're DNR'd. And so this is this big book they got in this hospital, and it's like they call it a Schindler's List. It's so heinous and hideous. And most people fear this in the nursing. You know what I'm saying? These RNs. So there's a lot of professional RNs that's not working in this country, and that has been displaced, just like people in the projects. You see how that works right there? They're being displaced too, and then they're letting squatters come in, illegals come in and squat that land into where they get you out, and then when they get ready to take over, they move them out easily because obviously they don't have standing. Right, right. They don't have a standing.
So now, is one of the motivations for this practice, if you will, driving up the scale of wages for nurses, or is it something? Am I totally off track on that? Because nurses are making big money now.
Right. A lot of the times, see, the whole issue is the import of nurses from other countries. Mm-hmm. Right now, the Philippines, like me and Daude was just looking up something the other day, and he looked up a law where they allow all these nurses to come in from other countries.
They get those visas.
They get those work visas or green card. They don't get a green card, but they get a work visa. Guest workers pass. That's it, and they can come here for 3 years, and they can stay here if they marry. Okay, so that's a law. So what they do is they keep saying that we're short nurses, but the actual nurses from here, all the black nurses, have been displaced out of this group of nurses, and now this keeps them coming in, and the people with the DNRs can't work, which are the colored people. Now these DNRs are illegal because they're statutes by the California legislation, and there's statutes in other states like Washington that labor code statutes that's saying you can't do that right there. But a lot of people don't know that right there, and it's a misdemeanor. So these big companies like Kaiser, they're one of the horrific abusers of these rights and this law right here. And so what we're planning on doing is we're helping these CANDA organize, and then we're going to do something like we have legislature stuff. We got congressional briefings next year in April the 23rd to April the 30th. We're going to do a congressional briefing on the 25th specifically. And then we're also going to create a strike, right? So we're going to get these nurses to go in front of Kaiser. We're going to strike with them. We're also going to, do some type of legal work against them, legal action against these people as well. But the main thing is this is a common practice, and it's affecting thousands and thousands of nurses.
So why has it been so easy to bury this in terms of a news story? Because I until you mentioned that, I had no idea. All I know is that when I visited hospitals and clinics and whatnot, I noticed that there's very few black nurses in most instances. You know, so how did this story, get so far off the radar?
Mainstream media, a lot of these corporations like Kaiser and these bigger Prime and these bigger corporations, these hospitals, they have a lot of clout with the media, and they have a special interest agenda also. So this is not going to be told because why? Just like the stuff in Watts, you don't hear about that a lot either. You probably hear something about it, and some people are worried about it. But they have it's a misdemeanor. And, a lot of people don't want to go against Kaiser. The media, the mainstream media. See, the mainstream media in social engineering is one of the major factors. Just like you don't know probably that 50% of all of the legal drugs, pain pills and stuff, is coming from another country. See? You probably you're not aware of that there. So most people, when they say even, doctors are killing people with these pain pills, they don't even know that 80, 50, 60, 70% of these illegal pills are coming from China, Mexico, and other countries. And that's all in the news. But they're not going to show you that right there, and they don't want to tell you that there because why? It's not in their best interest to let everybody know that there. See, the agenda is to, is to get you out of your job, make sure you're not working, create jobs for other people. And, that's the agenda right there.
Well, it's fascinating to me to have this kind of discussion. And the limit of it for me is I believe the body can heal itself. Not in all instances. So, yes, if you break your leg or you have some type of accident where the pain is just unbearable, yes, you should, ingest certain medication. The thing is, we went way past that, and it's not just a doctor's issue because the doctor is not the ones that are selling the medication. They're prescribing it, but they're not selling it. And I'm well aware of the fact that the pharmaceutical companies have compromised the most important oath I've ever heard, and that's the Hippocratic oath.
Right.
First, do no harm.
Right.
So how you going to give me something? Well, you need to take this, but you might start bleeding internally. Your heart might stop,
Right.
Your organs might shut down, but check with your doctor.
Right.
See, that's why the doctors have been incriminated because at the end of these commercials, they tell you, check with your doctor. Now, your doctor has a waiting room. Half of the people are patients, and half of the people are what?
DEA agents, confidential informants. That's the other half of the people. Believe me or not, that's it right there. And I don't know, just if I want to piggyback on that real quick before the segment ends.
Sure.
There was a 60-minute study, investigative study that was just on TV that aired about a week ago, and this showed that CVS Pharmacy and Big Pharma was able to bought off like 60 of the top DEA lawyers. And then they got these lawyers to write legislation to pass so they won't get in trouble. They can't go after the big pharma like Purdue and all these people got sued before CVS and all of them got money fined, $500-600 million fine. They can't be sued anymore now because they purchased the DEA. Can you imagine that there? Wow. And they infiltrated them. And see, this is a whole thing. I know you've heard of civil asset forfeiture, where there was just in Las Vegas, I did an article. I do also some editorial work on doctorsofcourage.org. And I did an article on a 93-year-old doctor. He's in Las Vegas. They wanted to give him 20 years, the prosecutor, but they gave him 10 years, and they called him a drug dealer, but he had $2.5 million in his bank on him. You know what I'm saying? So they confiscating this money, and that's what they're really doing. They're going after people, and they're using crime. So I have a petition on change.org, and it's for a civilian police review committee. This committee right here will stop the medical board. So you have to understand the medical board consists of a hidden police department. And what they're doing is they're targeting. Have you ever seen the police? That's why they have these cameras and everything now. Mm-hmm. These police officers have the power to change your charts, to do anything they want to you. You can't say anything. All you see it is in the media. This doctor right here, he's a drug dealer. But they don't show you all the misconduct and all the crime they did. They even get rid of your attorneys, right? Yep. They got rid of my attorney who said, we're going to get this case thrown out because, you guys are crooks. You guys coming in here with tainted hands, she told them. They said, the prosecutor said, what? Your Honor, I don't want her on the board. I don't want her, representing this guy right here. Oh, okay, all right. Hey, you can't come back here, okay? Yeah, they're doing that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of crime. And see, that's why the police have cameras and they have a lot of things working against these guys. People take their cameras out. But with the medical board police team and the DEA, you can't do that there. That's why we're working to get a civilian review police committee for the medical board. We need that protection because doctors and nurses do not have constitutional protections. They do not have due process rights. In Canada, this is one of the reasons they have no rights either, even though it's clearly breaking the law. You see that? It's breaking 5 different statutes that's been passed in this country. In the California Constitution has passed 5 statutes against what's being done to them, and they're doing it anyway. That's why we're going to strike. We're helping these group to organize and effectively approach this here on a multi-levels. And congressional level, talking to your congressperson, their health issues person, and also EEOC. We're going to be talking to attorneys, legal, and we're going to also go talk to Kaiser. We have strike against them and let them know they're breaking the law and they're hurting people, and they need to stop these illegal practices. So that's what we're working on.
So if someone would want additional information about this subject matter, how could they get in touch with you or link to further information about this?
Yes. They can go to, you can contact me. Like I said, I'm one of the, I'm a national advisor to the Black Doctors Matter. And so you could you could go to www.blackdoctorsmatter.org and you can get me there. Or you could go on YouTube. We do a lot of YouTube videos also. Mm-hmm. You can go to Bad News, BADNES. And, we got some bad news. Like for Jerry Brown, we're asking for, we've sent in some stuff for a grand jury investigation for him and, Crooked for corruption and that kind of stuff right there. So we got a lot of stuff out there. And basically there's a lot of things that's being done bad against, colored people. And we're being poisoned. We're being lied to. We're being abused by the police, this hidden police force. Doctors, I know a lot of doctors, okay? Because of Black Doctors Matter, American Pain Institute. We know a lot of doctors that they're doing this to. And it's an illegal thing. And we're trying to get people, we have this petition on change.org, and we're trying to get change. So that's the most important thing, change.
Speaking of change, it's got to come. The question is, in what form? And will we be around to, benefit from it? Some of the people won't be able to, based on the conversations you shared with me about what happened in Watts, and it's duplicated across the country. Wherever there's poor people, especially Black and brown people, the environment is unkind to them. Kind of elaborate on some of the things that you have documented that have happened in Watts, particularly in the Jordan Downs community, and what the implications of it and what you're planning on doing to remedy some of those situations.
Well, unlike what Billy was just talking about, is another classic example of African Americans being forced outside the labor force, forced outside the housing situation. I mean, so many things that's affecting us negatively. And so what we're doing in Watts is similar, unlike what he's saying. We're organizing. And so our first thing that we're organizing this in our community. We, even though we did have a gang truce that took place in 1992 that lasted over 12 years, we right now today we still have conflict amongst a lot of the young guys that's there. And so last Friday, a lot of us kicked back up the conversations in reference to creating this whole ceasefire again, get back to the table and mediating all our conflicts and all our disputes that we have, so that we can become one and have one voice. Because, like you say, Watts right now is experiencing a lot of resources, a lot of development is coming through that area, and the people who are supposed to benefit from it is not benefiting from it. And so what we're doing is we're organizing and holding these so-called agencies who is responsible for holding the money, holding them accountable, and ensure that the people in that community is getting a fair share of that money. And so we're documenting corruption, from a public entity standpoint of view, and we're documenting the crimes in our community. We're documenting some of the major billionaire developers who's behind the scene. And like I say, it's a lot of people don't know. Watts is a place where the Civil War was also launched. The city of Watts and the 15th district, San Pedro, and all these places. These are all historical military stations. Mm-hmm. And, I'm sitting on the DMZ at the old historical Watts train station. Mm-hmm. And like you said, it's going to be the ballot or the bullet. Mm-hmm. Either we as a people stand up and fight physically, or we challenge them politically. It's going to be our choice, because right now we're under pressure by these so-called social agencies and these major developers and all this social engineering that they're coming in with these new agendas that has nothing to do with us.
I think I'm going to upgrade that Malcolm X phrase to the wallet or the bullet, because if you hit them in that wallet, it's a whole nother type of confrontation that in many instances is more powerful and sustainable than a physical confrontation with these folks.
That's correct.
But some of the things that you shared with me, I want you to intimate to this audience right now about the people who were displaced and the mortality rates as a result of some of the things that community was environmentally subjected to.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, the overexposure of individuals to toxic waste within the community, from the water, from the air, from the soil, and from the food, is a form of genocide against American poor black people. And like I said, we didn't document it, we didn't uncover it, and now we're calling for these people to account for that. That's the main reason why we're organizing. The genocides and the effects that this stuff is having on our mortality rate and our health. And so for me, that's just like, something inside me won't allow me to rest because of this, and to negotiate with people who allow this type of stuff to take place within our community won't allow me to shake hands with them until I feel satisfied, whereas in the people in our community are receiving they just do. And so we've been documenting all the stuff that we're saying, and like I said, we in the business of calling people to account, to the point is where we're going to have the Justice Department coming in and looking at these people as who they are. We call them RICO, racketeering, influence, corrupt organizations. Organizations that's corrupted, that has influence, that's brought out the interests of the taxpaying citizens of the Watts community. And so we're looking at major agencies. Housing Authority, which is a $500 million agency. We're looking at social institutions, social educational institutions who's playing the policy part, UCLAs, and we're talking about the developers that's coming in and developing, who's creating all this negative adverse effect, such as Rick Caruso's, and I'm gonna name them because, like I say, these people are all on our chart. And then we're talking about the solution, the Justice Department. Breaking the purse string, return the ball back to the home team. So that's what I'm about. That's what we're about in our community, and these are the things that's taking place. And a lot of the stuff, I don't like to talk about it because it's strategic. You know what I'm saying?
So you don't have to talk about that. I'll pick up the ball right there. We've had a number of meetings, and for the first time, we broke just a little bread symbolically to get us out of that habit of sitting down at these chicken dinners the barbecue. Well, if we shoulda, coulda, woulda, but no money changed. For there was some gunfire might got exchanged, but wasn't no money exchange. And we're trying to really break that mold right now, and Watts is an epicenter for that, simply because the chickens are coming home to roost.
Yes, sir.
Right? Everywhere they're redeveloping, the first thing they got to do is deal with us.
That's
and if we do not up our game, then it'll be some more coffee money passed around.
Yes, right.
But if we elevate our game and come as a team,
yes, sir.
We had a meeting today, these two brothers and myself, with another brother, Wayne Spencer for Hire Security, and we want to replicate that kind of situation wherein we had met the day before.
Yes.
To get our game plan together. We just didn't go in there all willy-nilly. Right? Because we sitting across from some people that have $1 billion project on the table. Mm-hmm. And the message out of this is, my people, if we ever get past of counting each other's money and thinking so little of each other,
right?
Trust but verify. I get that, because our track record is really messed up when it comes to money.
Yes.
We keep sticking it in our pocket and ending up with 100% of nothing.
That's it.
But what we're working on, we're going to return in a few weeks and give you an extended example of what the possibilities are when you match talents with a situation. Because of the work that they have done and where they're from, that's a portion of our equity.
That's it.
It's also a big piece of our leverage in sitting across people whose bellies is full and their pockets is fat. But they have no more advantage than we do because we came collectively to the table. And so as I begin to wind up to today's show, how can people get in touch with you and find out more about the exploits of Daude Sherrills?
You can reach me at Daude, at DAUDE, at buildpluscommunity.org. That's BLUIDPLUSCOMMUNITY.org.
All right, I got about 2 minutes to give my little summation here today. I was watching the news this morning. I got some good news and some bad news for America. There was a senator named Jeff Flake from Arizona who announced that he is joining Bob Corker, a fellow Republican, in retiring from the United States Senate. The beauty of that, and the reason he's clapping, is a whole nother
wartime.
That's really what's getting ready to happen. See, we have lived long enough to see some amazing things. Some of it keeps me up at night because it's scary. Okay,
right.
I know how you feel about the Trumpster, but see, I grew up with white boys like Donald Trump, and they would take their marbles and go home in a minute. They don't get their way, And he's holding on to some marbles that I'm just not. I'm uncomfortable with him having, right? Because we can all end up breathing nuclear flames behind this fool when it comes to all that old blustering. You see what I mean? But the good news is I'm watching white folks act like niggas. You see, because you got one end of the Republican Party that want to take it all the way back to making America white again. Right? Then you got these other Republicans that have made so much money, they're like, you know what? I got a couple of little Negro friends that I want to keep, and I just don't want to, raise the cover. And let us see how this shit really goes, right? So you got status quo, then you got them good old boys on the other end, the Tea Party folks and all of that. You can't even go to their rally. I done seen them jump on some brothers at them rallies, even though you be like, I'm trumped up. Okay, right. You better stay out of that rally.
Hey, when the general step in the house, hey, man, they gonna open up the door, man.
No, that's why you ain't going in there, because I done seen them beat up brothers at some
No, they ain't gonna do me like that. I'm a real black American. When I come with a shotgun. I'm gonna knock their skin off.
On that note right there, I want to thank OG Porters for putting up with what we do here on Tuesdays, 5:30 to 6:30. And this sister really deserves to be honored for the stake that she's driven down in this community, man. It's not easy, man, trying to deal with us every week, including me. So thank you, Porters, and thank you guys for letting me be myself again. We'll see you week after next. We off next week. We out of here.
All right.